Good evening, anyone tuning into this video. I don't make videos at all, so this is my first one of any sort, really, in this format. Now, a post I made online had a curious question about a healing build, and since there was a little bit of responses that said that they wanted to see something, I wanted to go ahead and take advantage of that opportunity to share what I had constructed, just to share that with the community and anyone who would want to maybe look at changing their gameplay a little bit. So this is a 100% support build, completely taking advantage of Dawnblade and of course the healing abilities that Dawnblade allows. Now, a lot of the builds that I've seen out there are really nice and fun to play with, but they were real gimmicky, and it didn't feel like they would actually stand up on their own, and they didn't, at least in my experience. As a solo player or someone to really work with people, and usually all the builds out there that I've seen are really well rounded. So the type of healing characters builds that I've seen didn't really do too much, because a lot of players are already well rounded in high level activities so that they can basically take care of themselves. Now, I wanted to switch that up from being the most, try to be the most powerful, do the most DPS. I wanted to actually support my teammates and every one of my actions to do so. So, of course, everyone knows what Dawnblade is, along with Well of Radiance and Guiding Flame to empower Divine Protection for the blessings, the White Grenades, and Benevolent Dawn. So the goal of the build was to have non-stop healing and make my teammates as invincible as possible with my White Grenades being my abilities that I was looking at: the White Grenades, the Rift, Empowering, Well of Radiance, and Benevolent Dawn. So what I needed to min-max for my playstyle. And the role I wanted to be was a support role, so I need to know my heal limits, my range, supporting abilities, supporting equipment like the weapons, exotic, and armor, and everything that goes into building a character, and the abilities of those weapons, and what objective did I need to meet with those weapons. And what stats were the armor going to have? What was going to support in that respect. So I need to support my healing abilities, and my weapons needed to support either my armor or my healing abilities, and I chose to funnel everything into boosting the abilities. So my playstyle was I wanted to heal with range and create a stronghold. Basically, when I create a rift, I wanted to be able to have a choke point where we can just stand and just hit DPS and not have to worry about any trash mobs coming after us or any harm coming. So I need to be able to protect my teammates and allow them to focus on the boss unhindered. So the outline of the build was to keep my rift unlimited and enable myself to be the ad clear. I mean, I was going to take care of the ads. And be able to do massive singular damage to protect the rift for any powerful enemies, and also to deal DPS to the boss. And I need to be able to spam my grenades, both white grenades and regular grenades, because I was going to choose solar grenades. And so the requirements was I needed to maintain Benevolent Dawn active at all times, no matter what. And I need to also gain rapid Well of Radiance builds, and the rift needs to be rechargeable fast. And so what my stats need to look at: recovery. For unlimited grenades, I needed to look at my discipline and where I needed to be for that. And everything that I need to do with the grenades, rift, and empowering, and Well of Radiance, I need to be able to keep Benevolent Dawn active at all times. And so the weapons for the exotic that came out on top was Lumina. Monte Carlo was a very close second. Best for solo. Didn't work better in practice with working with a team. And so my priority had to be with Rift, my grenades, and my melee, and the supporting armor abilities needed to support my recharge rate or create ability feedback loops. And so I needed to look at how to gain a fast Well of Radiance on top of that. So with the armor, the mods needed to support the Rift and melee. My exotic armor must feed the grenades and melee, so with, the Sunbracers were a no-brainer for that one. I tried other exotics, and just Sunbracers seemed to work the best. I've used Phoenix Protocol and best for radius, some other ones, but some bracers just stayed on top. Because you can stack with a energy, solar energy, Wall of Radiance, enhanced momentum transfer, and momentum transfer to stack with solar resistance to protect yourself from your own grenades, to prevent suicide. And you can create the feedback loop as long as you have enough recovery and discipline built within it. This seemed to work out with the other pieces of armor, so I need to put the focus in there so that I can actually have enough grenades going whenever I get my sun bracers active to where I can activate it immediately as soon as it runs out. I need to be able to have that feedback loop going at all times. And I can even heal my teammates by spamming grenades at them while damaging the enemy and keeping my Benevolent Dawn active the entire period. And my chest, moving on to my chest, needed to be having recovery and discipline. I just found this one to replace an old chest piece that I was wearing. This one had better stats with recovery, discipline, and intellect. I didn't care about strength because I have other compensators for that. Once I get this masterworked, I'm going to put it into discipline mod. It's only going to give me about a 10% greater buff from what I was already able to do. It's not that much of a significant difference, but it's one nonetheless I plan on taking advantage of. I have Breach Resonator and Molten Overload for weakening enemies and getting my grenades back using the barrier weapons mod. And I didn't really see a need other than sword reserves for any other of the archetypes of the Arc, Solar, and Void. I didn't see much of a use for it, so I would use sword reserves during the off season that there was no artifact available, because that's what I did in the previous season as well. The boots, not too much to really work with either. Power Ammo Scavenger a must, I would say. But other than that, didn't matter which archetype, I wasn't really planning on taking advantage of anything else besides the Scavenger perk. And of course, Recovery mod to boost that recovery, and the stats need to be again in Discipline, Intellect, and Recovery in order to maintain the equilibrium I have set up with this one. Moving on to the Bond, solar damage resistance to continue to protect the self and from bombing yourself, because that's what you're going to be doing a lot. Enhanced Ashes to Assets to quickly gain a spamming grenade toss with the ability to get your Well of Radiance back relatively quickly. Enhanced Bomber, because you're going to get your Rift back every single time. You're able to use it to offset the cooldown period for your actual grenades. So you have unlimited Rift because of Benevolent Dawn and a max recovery on your Rift, on your class ability. So you get to really spam it. It runs out. By the time it runs out, you've already thrown down another Rift. So essentially, as long as someone touches it at least twice, it's unlimited. Enhanced Bomber helps exacerbate your grenade recharge rate. And the hood, the helmet was an exception because I'm still using it prior to Armor 2.0. Ashes to Assets. Now, I tried combining this one along with another Ashes to Assets as well as the enhanced version. This one seems to have a better result in terms of sustainability. Recovery, Strength are the two primary focuses for the hood. At least that's how it turned out for me. You can substitute it for an Arc hood and maybe use a mod that Heavy Ammo Finder is a must. And maybe a Sword Ammo Finder. So you can combine that with the Heavy Scavenger or the Sword Scavenger. Or whatever other scavengers that you want with the boots. That wasn't too much of a priority because this is an exception for me. I'm using this one. But you can substitute as long as the recovery, strength, and strength is 20. The recovery is 20 and the strength is 20. As long as it's that, you can still maintain these stats, which these two didn't matter as much as these three mattered to be at least a tier 4. This one had to be a tier 10 no matter what. But as long as these are tier 4, this balance goes really well. You can get your Well of Radiance back if there's enough trash mobs before your current Well of Radiance runs out. And you can maintain Benevolent Dawn active at all times, so you could be literally throwing grenades and not even having to shoot. Now, moving on to the weapons, they need to support and boost my abilities. So I need to pair Demolitionist with Sunbracers for a grenade feedback loop. I just got Infinite Paths and I'm waiting to unlock this next. I believe in rank 92 in the Season Pass. So I can try and get Demolitionist along with Firefly and another final perk that I can really take advantage of pulse rifles. Last season I had Arc Logic, amazing with Demolitionist. He never run out of ammo. And this is the critical part. Needs to be Arc or Void because you have solar grenades. And then you can have an Arc or Void sword, which I am choosing sword specifically because of singular massive damage. But before we get on to that, to reiterate the point, Demolitionist is a must on this weapon. If you can get Firefly or some kind of AoE attack going, it works even better. And this is because it allows you to have sustained damage. You need to be able to put sustained damage. It strikes a strong balance between having singular damage and sustained damage against groups, and especially taking out your champions. You can always... it takes about one clip before your grenade recharges if you get enough kills with it properly. So you only reload once every 3 clips. Works really well. It worked even better with Arc Logic. But you can substitute that for an Arc Scout Rifle or Void Scout Rifle, which I don't think there's really much good ones, but if you can get Demolitionist on it, you should go for it, if that's what you choose. I chose Pulse Rifle because I wanted to put sustained fire similar to what I could do with Arc Logic. This one was a great replacement until I got Infinite Paths because of full auto trigger, but I need the Arc because I need that difference in all 3 elements for high-end match game activities. Now moving on to the sword, Tireless Blade allows it to be sustained, on guard, and major spec. On guard because 50% damage buff as soon as you pull it out. You do an instant heavy attack. You pair that up with getting empowered. And if you have a Well of Radiance active as well, I'm not so sure how much it actually stacks or one replace another, but you can one-shot champions using this combo. I've done it many times and we'll show some more gameplay on that. And it's mainly just to do large singular damage to contribute DPS to the boss, but more importantly, take out champions or high-end enemies from getting into your rift and getting too close to your enemies. Too close to your allies. You have to be able to protect them. So that's what the sword is for. Rocket launchers and fusion rifles, linear fusion rifles, and grenade launchers, I seem to have better results with sustainability with the sword. That's just how my gameplay turned out. I would love to use Death's Razor because of counterattack and energy transfer and infinite guard. I can still get that 50% damage buff, but in practice, it wasn't sustainable. Steel Zibble or Night Terror seem to be able to outperform it by a long shot because of quick access. And of course, Lumina. That's not really anything to argue about. You basically have items, and that's how I use Lumina. I use Lumina as an item for the noble rounds. So I use it to heal my teammates at a major distance between us. Also to stay in close quarters DPS to bosses, and use it to give a quick damage buff when when getting into encounters. And again, substitute Monte Carlo for solo because that works better in practice for solo, where you can essentially never run out of grenades and constantly heal yourself while just bombing the place. So my Lumina allows me, more importantly, not just to heal my teammates at a distance and give them damage buffs, but also to maintain Benevolent Dawn during a dry spell. If there's ever a period where I cannot heal my teammates because of my well didn't come on time, or they didn't touch it, or my grenade is out, and my melee is out and I don't have any of my abilities, I can quickly switch to my Lumina after charging it for the first few kills in the beginning of the game and start using it like an item to activate Benevolent Dawn, restarting the feedback loop of infinite resources once again. That's the most important thing. So again, going back to how it works with Synergy, Lumina allows my Benevolent Dawn to stay active during dry periods. My Infinite Pass recharges my grenades, allows me to fire sustainably and put constant DPS. One hit massive DPS that I can stack, singular massive damage to targets. Ashes to assets. Heavy ammo finder, yeah, but recovery more important. So ashes to assets and recovery. Infinite feedback loop with Sunbracers. Focus on recovery and strength. Recovery. Once I get this one masterworked, I can get a little bit extra boost on that grenade. I don't need it right now, but you'll see why. And then focus on recovery and discipline. And then enhanced bomber, enhanced ashes to assets, and solar resistance. So all this works together to form this, which
Legion. Great. The Cabal are here.
Correct. I have been monitoring Vex transmission. The Cabal are invading the installation as well. Gotta love coincidence.
Okay, don't get hit by that.
Intercepted communication from the Vex indicates that Kargan has bypassed their initial security protocols.
It looks like Kargan is using that complex to access the data artifact. Get me over to that Vex fleet, and I'll try a counter hack. One down, 2 to go. stealing the data while we're here.
You are correct, friendly ghost. A massive buildup of energy indicates several Cabal transports are inbound to your position. You asked for it.
is true? If I were them, I'd want it gone.
poison everything in reach. Mercury is a dangerous place.